All right. Call the meeting to order. Can you please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Sam Martin?
Here.
Martha Eldridge?
Here.
And Rick Morgan's here. Public input. Anybody? Sure.
We attended that on December 10th.
Okay.
We talked about the sand pit. Can you hear me? What's your name? Loretta Sun.
Okay.
S-I-M. We came to talk about the Effingham new sand pit at the end of Duncan Lake Road.
Yes.
And you had recommended that we get a petition and have our neighbors sign it, and that we attend the Effingham Planning Board meeting.
Okay.
And we did that.
Okay.
We just went last week. They already had the design meeting on December 6th, so we would like to get a copy of that. I guess they put regulations in it on how they'll operate the dump, what the hours of operation will be, the traffic and so forth.
Okay.
And then they recommended they can't do anything else because the road is owned by Ossipee.
Okay.
So we have to come back to you guys to see what
Okay.
you can do to help.
Yeah.
So we would like to put some questions together that maybe you guys can answer when you have a chance.
Sure. Good try.
Okay. And that's a copy of the petition.
Okay. How many of your neighbors did you get to sign it?
Pretty much all of them.
Okay.
Everyone that was around where I could reach.
Okay. Let me just read this. Follow-up questions regarding the Effingham new sand pit that will come through Ossepee's Duncan Lake Road. We attended the Effingham Planning Board meeting on 1/3 and gave them a copy of the petition. Attached is a copy of the signed petition for Ossipee as well. One owner, William Angelini, already brought his design of a new sand pit to the Effingham Planning Board meeting of 12/6. We're trying to get a copy so that we can understand the regulations. Effingham said they would be putting hours of operation regulations on the pit operation of 7 to 3:30. Effingham said they can't do anything regarding dust, volume of heavy traffic, and noise impact to Duncan Lake Road since that is owned by Ossipee. 3, is there a copy of the Green Oak Sand Pit regulations that we can receive a copy to understand what is in place? 4, who governs the sand pit to ensure they're meeting the regulations? 5, can Ossipee stop the additional traffic impact that the new sand pit will generate? This was an action item for 12/10/18 Ossipee meeting. Any update? Do we understand what the new EPA dust? Do we understand what the new EPA dust control rules are that are coming, and can that influence this decision? How do we get follow-ups to the questions, and who do we contact if there are additional questions?
Effingham did say that there's some new EPA rules coming on the dust.
Yeah,
So
it
we'd
may
be curious
be.
to see if that's going to help.
Brad, that's something you're familiar with?
I haven't heard of any.
Brad's our public works director.
Okay, yep.
I-
I do have that.
yeah.
I was going to look up on the NHDES to see if there's anything out there.
So our planning board, the chairman is sitting over there. The planning board is the one who oversees gravel pits, correct?
It's not in our town.
Huh?
It's not in our town.
No, they're asking about our ordinance, our pit that is already on Duncan Lake Road. We have that information of.
It's grandfathered. We have no control over it.
You're not listening. Hold on. Her question is there a copy of the Green Oak Sand Pit regulation?
Yes, it's online.
All right. We can make sure that she knows how to access it.
It's online. Under planning board, I believe it is, isn't it, Sam?
I looked online and I couldn't find anything. I went through all the planning board, the master plan, and I can't find anything.
Okay.
It's,
The planning board secretary, who is at the Freight House. You are familiar with Freight House is down here in the village?
Next to OC
Right next, between OCC and the restaurant.
Okay.
It's also a town building. It's where the planning board and the conservation commission meets and all of that. They have a secretary who is there tomorrow
3 days.
tomorrow after 3.
after 3. If you can stop in there, tell her what it is you're looking for, And she should be able, if it's online, she'll just print your copy.
Okay.
Boom, that one's done. Can Ossipee stop the additional traffic impact that the new sand pit will generate? This is an action item from the 12/10/18 meeting. The quick answer is no. The same way, granted this is at the back end of a dead area, but the same way we could not tell Wakefield that they can't open a new business because of the butts on Granite Road. We just can't. If there were going to be an impact on the dust, that's something that we may be able to try to remediate with the town of Effingham. But they don't have any ability, in what they've told you, and they don't have any ability to do any work on Ossipee roads any more than we have any ability to work on Effingham roads. But if there is a detrimental impact on the town of Ossipee, then we can, in fact, seek from them compensation for that. That, unfortunately, isn't a preventative measure. That's an after-the-fact thing, which isn't what you're looking for.
Well, anything will help, it's really terrible. Anything will help, it's
Yep.
really bad right now, we're just concerned it's gonna be even worse.
Who governs the sand pit to ensure they meet the regulations, and that is the planning boards. In Ossipee, for Ossepee's pits, it's Ossipee Planning Board. For the town of Effingham, it's the Effingham Planning Board. That's why you went to their meeting.
Right.
And as far as the new EPA dust control rules, we're not familiar with them. The Public Works Director isn't familiar with them, but the EPA changes rules all the time, so I guess we'll have to wait and see what those are. Does that answer any of you?
So I guess I would be curious to see the plans.
Yep.
Who governs it.
Yeah.
Because we, personally, what we see, it's not being governed. Based on the speed that these trucks are coming, the loads that they're carrying, they're not covered, the hours of operation. and I don't know what they are.
Some of that's not a permit issue.
Yeah.
Speed of the vehicles, that's a police issue. We can certainly help address that. The covered loads is a police issue. That's not something that's going to be in the sand pit regulations.
Okay.
The sand pit regulations, they will govern hours of operation.
Okay.
It will govern how much and how close to the property boundaries they can excavate, and reclamation plans and all of those things. But
Okay.
the truck traffic on the road is not going to be governed by the permit plan.
Okay.
That's a police issue.
All right.
We've had trucks coming down 4 in the morning
Okay?
and coming in late at night.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 7 days a week.
That may be an operation, an hour of operation issue. We'll have to wait and see what they,
You know, we don't even get 1 day of a break from it.
yeah.
You know?
All right, we'll see what the regulations are.
But as far as the other part of it, the speed of the trucks, the covered loads, that's something that the police department can help with. That's not gonna be an operation.
Okay, so
Okay.
we'll get a copy of that, and then if we have any issues, we see the planning board?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I'll just add one thing also, obviously, the dust on that road there is you be talking to us about that, so that we try and keep that road with calcium chloride on it and stuff for the traffic, obviously going out of the Green Oaks pit there. We welcome any feedback for anybody living in there, if it does get dried out, so there's
I
always,
can
call us.
invite you down to walk with me.
Give us a call,
See it.
we can come down, we can retreat the road and stuff like that, so we'll definitely work with you guys
Okay.
on helping out on the stuff that we can help out on.
So with the increase of truck traffic, it's gonna wear out that road even more. What happens there? I mean, the ones that are going down it now beat the hell out of it. Any more is gonna really destroy it.
Listen, you may be 100% right, and it may in fact cause the town of Ossipee to have to grade it more frequently, or
Well, it isn't-
some of it is gonna be, unfortunately, is gonna be a wait and see. But we can't tell the town of Effingham that they can't establish a business because it abuts our property. We can't, no more than we would want, quite frankly, them to be able to dictate to us that we could have a business because it abuts them.
The residents in Effingham, abutters, also did a petition.
Yeah.
Just FYI.
Good. I don't have a problem whatsoever with this board sending a letter to the Effingham Planning Board that expressing the concerns that the majority of the residents on that road have.
Thank you.
I don't have a problem doing that. Fact
I
is,
would agree.
I'll make a motion that we draft a letter to the Effingham Planning Board regarding this pit, and that we pass on the concerns of our residents, when it comes to what impact it's gonna have.
Second.
Any more discussion, anything you wanna add to it?
No, I agree 100%.
All in favor?
We'll do what we
Aye.
can. Aye.
So we'll join you. I don't know how much that will be successful. And I don't mean to sound defeatist, but, you know,
I'll take
we'll
whatever
see.
help, hopefully.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Number one, a truck under 35 miles an hour does not have to be covered. Number two, I would recommend that you send a CC of that letter to the owner of Green Oaks. Because when the Dows sold that, they gave them a right of way to that back pit. And he didn't know about it until I spoke with him a couple of months ago. He said I was aware of it after the fact. So, and as far as you can put an impact on Effingham for that road, that's part of the regulations. DES, what's her name? She's in charge of gravel pits. Thank you. She's in charge of it, so I would, whatever you're gonna do there, to the planning board, I'd also CC her. But we have no, as far as the planning board of the town of Ossipee, we have no jurisdiction over Green Oaks because it was grandfathered by court order. Milton got that. So thus we can't tell them, you know, well, your hours are only so and so, etc.
They would be coming under the regular zoning ordinance?
No, because they're same as Ossipee aggregates. Those two are grandfathered, and I believe Tilton Pike is grandfathered. Don't hold me to it, but I'd have to look on the books. But I know Ossipee Ag and Milton were started prior to it's either 72 or 78 that the regulations came in. So we can't,
All of those grandfather changes with ownership?
no. No, well,
When did Green Oaks buy that? When did Green Oaks buy out
Milton was dead about a year and a half when Kurt sold it to him. It's been 3 years, I believe. And we've never got notification from the state that we could regulate it.
Be an interesting question to the lady from the state, from DES, to say, you know, because something was grandfathered to the previous owner, does that, I mean, I just can't imagine that remains forever. Maybe.
It goes with the pit, that's the order. Goes with the lot.
So 100 years from now, they can operate 24 hours a day.
No, I mean, that's up to the state. Not up to us.
We all may learn more than we want to know about gravel pits. Huh? We're not unsympathetic at all to your plight, we understand it. It's,
After the meeting, if you want to come up to the office, I'll give it. All your bills.
And one more small issue, the use of Jake brakes, exhaust brakes, they use them in there, coming down that road. They're empty. There's no reason to use it. They're for when you're loaded or slowing down from high speed. And it's like as soon as they get up the first hill, they start applying and they go right past my house and everything's wrong.
that is something we can regulate. I'm not a fan of regulating them, except when there's absolutely no use for them. I mean, we have some areas of the Ossipee Mountains, I mean, I want them to be able to use their Jake brakes coming down out of the mountains.
This isn't a mountain, this is kind of a flat.
It's a very, very flat road. I don't see any sense whatsoever in them using Jake brakes on that road, and I wouldn't have any problem regulating that. The way that is accomplished is through the creation of a town ordinance. It's a bit of a process. We have to have a public hearing, et cetera, but I'm not at all opposed to that. There's no need for Jake brakes on flat ground. That's something we can address.
That'd be a big help.
No. The other thing that we had discussed some time ago, and this is also a truck issue that has kind of got set back on the back burner, is we had been approached by several members down in Granite about doing a no-through trucking. They were complaining about the number of truckers who are using the Granite Road as a cutoff between Maine. I had spoken to then Chief Eldridge, and I've also took the liberty of speaking to State Police, Highway Enforcement, and the way that is accomplished is also through doing a town ordinance. It's interesting because some of the Wakefield roads that abut our roads in Granite, I think are already controlled as no-through trucking. But if we want to do it on ours, then we have to do it by ordinance. And I'm not opposed to it. I just, the Granite Road in particular is narrow. We've spent a lot of money up there redoing pavement, and I think the more truck traffic we can keep off it, the better it is for everybody, certainly the people who live up there. Any thoughts?
Speaking of that, we just had an issue down there last storm. We had a truck, tractor and trailer, was jackknifed on our road, blocked our road completely off. Our plow truck had to pull the truck out enough so he could get up by and they finally had to get a skidder from their job, wherever it was, to come down and get the truck out. So it is a nuisance.
It doesn't stop oil deliveries or any, it doesn't stop any deliveries there. It's just a through trucking. People are just using it as a shortcut. Thoughts?
No, I'd say do something.
Yep.
I know, like, during mud season, they stop the logging trucks from tearing up the roads and stuff. On the mud roads.
It's all trucks by weight.
Yeah, right. Well, these, fully loaded 18-wheelers gotta be up around that weight.
Oh, the weight has
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Is there a way to stop them that way?
There is, but I think you're using a shotgun when you can use a pellet gun. The idea behind the no-through trucking is it simply, by ordinance, makes it a punishable fine for them to use it as a shortcut, which is all we're trying to do.
They've been doing
They've been doing that, and they are doing that now. The weight limit that you're talking about is something that we utilize in the spring during mud season to try to protect our roads from being damaged. That's a little bit different situation than this.
It's not that you couldn't use that ordinance, like they're tearing up the road a certain weight.
You could, but then the problem with that is you then have to prove that weight versus just simply proving that it's using it as no through trucking. If they haven't got a delivery slip for delivering on Granite, then they got no business being on that road. Period. So it makes it, I think, more reasonably enforceable.
On Duncan Lake, they do have the weigh station, they have to weigh in at the vet.
Yeah.
So you have that record.
Yep.
That helps.
Yeah.
We see them going out.
I'm going to make a motion that we proceed with establishing a town ordinance prohibiting through trucking on the Granite Road, Effingham Road, and Fogg's Ridge.
Is there any coming down Circuit?
No, can't get to Circuit.
They shouldn't be able to get to circuit unless they.
So Granite, Fogg's Ridge, and Effingham. And at the same time that we also establish a town ordinance prohibiting the use of Jake brakes on Duncan Lake Road.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll have to set those for a public hearing, and we need to advertise those as well. So that'll be up and coming, okay? We'll get that headed. Ed?
In regards to the pit owner, would it be inappropriate for you to send those complaints to the pit owner, invite him in, because maybe he doesn't know or they don't know?
Yep.
Maybe even the Jake breaking situation, maybe they could just be told rather than go to a public hearing?
Yeah.
Maybe-
First of all, I think the Jake break, I agree with one, I do want to send forward all of this to the owner of the pit and give him a chance to respond. The Jake break issue, I think, is a little bit different because that's not him. That's the people who are using the road. They may in fact be going to that pit, but he doesn't control that. That's where I think we need to do that. Other public input? If not, we're going to start into the red folder. We have the minutes of the Selectmen's meeting which occurred on Monday, December 31st. I make a motion we accept them as printed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have the minutes of the Selectmen's work session which occurred on Monday, December 31st. I make a motion we accept them as printed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we have the minutes of the Selectmen's work session which occurred on Monday, December 17th. I make a motion we accept them as printed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have the check voucher totals, payroll for week ending, payroll and benefits for week ending 1/5 was $172,732.92. We had accounts payable for week ending 12/31 of $167,536.52. For a total dispersed of $340,269.44. Additionally, we had water and sewer accounts payable, which we track separately, in the amount of $7,078.79. I make a motion to sign.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. These are just the check voucher totals. Each and every bill goes through a multi-tiered review by the department head, our finance office, and then the selectman before it gets to this. These are just the backstories. These got separated here. I knew there was too few. Let's go to the back of that one. We have a payroll reimbursement request for water and sewer in the amount of $3,342.30. I make a motion we sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a petition which was submitted, which will now be forwarding to the planning board. And it's regarding an addition to our zoning ordinance. Steve, you want to explain?
Agricultural.
Under agricultural use, that they be allowed to erect a structure. It still have to meet all the setbacks.
Setbacks would be quite different. Yeah, you don't like meet setbacks.
Petition was received on December 10th. Guess there was some issues with him not being able to read all the signatures, but anyway, that was clarified. Kelly Skian is certified that there are 26 registered voters. Mr. Billings.
According to RSA, you may submit a petition 120 days to 90 days prior to town meeting. It must be in the planning board's hands 90 days prior. That has not been submitted to us. We can't act on it.
It comes to the selectmen first. And it's up to us.
It specifies in the RSA that it is presented to the planning board no later than 90 days prior to town meeting.
It actually says, under RSA 675-4, that 25 or more voters may petition for an amendment to a zoning ordinance, historic district, or building code. Petition and amendment should be voted on at the annual town and village district meeting. A petition to amend the zoning ordinance, historic district, or building code should be submitted to the Board of Selectmen or the village district commissioners during the period between 120 and 90 days prior to the annual town meeting. The petition should be in correct warrant article form, etc., etc. Then it says the selectmen or village district commissioners shall submit the petitions to the planning board in a timely manner. Not 90 days. Let me finish. The planning board at its first regular meeting following the petition shall set a date of public hearing. Why? This is what I'm reading, it was an RSA.
According to the RSA from the municipal. Is that correct? I don't have my book here, but.
Well, I'm reading you RSA 675-4.
Or, and read I. Read I. 674-4I.
I don't have 674, I have 675.
Excuse me, 675-4I, which says shall be in the planning board's hands.
No, it doesn't say that, Connie.
You're reading 4, you're not reading I.
675:4.
I.
Okay, and that's what I just read. It comes to the Board of Selectmen.
You're reading 4, right?
Is there
An
an I in
ABC,
it?
an I in there.
No, there's not.
There is.
Anyway, it's come to us. I'm gonna make a motion that we forward this to the planning board for appropriate action.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If you say you can't do it, then I guess we probably ought to ask the town attorney to make sure. But it comes to us, we did receive it in time, and then it simply says that we shall submit the petition to the planning board in a timely manner.
It was submitted to Kelly and you with no printed block. They took it back. So that date of December 10th is incorrect.
It doesn't,
Doesn't require the printed.
no.
It just says
It
signatures,
just
it
says
doesn't say
signatures of
printed.
25 registered voters. It doesn't say anything about a printed name.
I was told by Kelly that it was an improper petition because there was a signature block, but no printed block at the time of submittal. And as of last week, it was not back in.
Well, here now, we received it, we're referring it to the planning board for action. I do think we need to make sure it's the town attorney, because the last thing I want, and I hope the last thing the planning board will do, is stand in the way of a petitioned article. There are 26 registered voters who have signed a petition that they want this on the ballot. And my personal opinion is it needs to be on the ballot. And if the planning board chooses not to, I just want to make sure, that we're not liable for their decision. Well, it's here. We have the highway department work log, which is here in the folder if anybody'd like to look at it. We have a request for clerical abatement. This is on a town-owned property. It's simply a housekeeping. It results in a refund or abatement of $0.00. It's on map 66, lot 47. I make a motion, we sign it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We have a supplemental warrant authorizing the tax collector to collect $132. I make a motion, we approve it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the letter we had discussed last week to Stanley Brothers. Dear Mr. Brothers, at the regularly scheduled meeting held on December 31st, the Board of Selectmen accepted your resignation from your position as the Ossipee Zoning Board of Adjustment, on the Ossipee Zoning Board of Adjustment effective November 19th. We'd like to extend our great appreciation for the many years you have devoted to this position. To thank you adequately for your service to this town is impossible. If we can be of any assistance to you in the future, please feel free to contact this office. They have, the only reason he resigned is they've moved to Texas, I believe. I make a motion, we sign it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a contract for use of facilities, OCC, wants to use Town Hall. This is in June. I guess we want to get on the schedule early, but the schedule's been okayed. I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a contract for use of facilities for a birthday party here in the gym. Schedule's been okayed. I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
19, not 18.
Yeah.
We got 3 purchase orders that we're going to approve, and they're for 2018 funds to be encumbered. First one is to DuPont Storage System. It's a 3-system shelving with special rollers. It was from warrant article number 14 at last town meeting. The amount is $9,530. I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Second purchase order is to Lilac Printing and Graphic. It's for a total of 10,000 envelopes. It's around $550, which doesn't total, it's actually $532. I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Third is for co-file. This is to do with the preservation of the books. One it's to do with the inventory and appointments back in 1870. The appointments from 1909 to 1945. It's from record restoration. The amount is $3,155. I make a motion, we approve it. All in favor? Aye. We have a contract for use of facilities. Rainbow Ridge Association wants to use Town Hall for their annual meeting. The schedule's been okayed. I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have a letter from the Planning Board. Dear Board of Selectmen, the Ossipee Planning Board during the January 2nd, 2019 meeting recommends the Board of Selectmen appoint Crystal Eldridge to the Ossipee Planning Board as an alternate for a 3-year term. We appreciate any input the board may have on this matter. We don't have a full position open.
That was not the motion made. Motion was made that if Crystal wished to be on the planning board, she had to give up the conservation. Because the RSA says you can't have 2 board members from the planning board on another land use board. I don't, she wasn't there. I don't, Sam You spoke with her, right?
That was what was that.
Who else do we have on this on more than one board?
Tim. Tim is on the conservation.
Okay.
So she'll have to
Then
do
we
that.
won't act on this until somebody has a chance to speak with her. Okay?
Martha, you talk to her? Yeah.
We have a bunch of proposed zoning changes that are proposed by the planning board. And I'll be honest with you, I've read them now 6 or 7 times, and it doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense to me.
The worst one are housekeeping per RSA changes.
It's just a very confusing way to compose it with a strike and remove the red and replace the blue. They're here anyway, I'd like to look at them. With summary of building permits
For 18, 2000.
for 2018, we had 390 permits.
24,000.
Fees collected were $28,392. It's a year-end report on number of building permits. Month of December was 20. We have, Ellen, the town administrator, has been working on updating the employee manual. We've been reviewing it in work session, and it is complete. And I make a motion that we adopt the Town of Ossipee employee manual effective today's date.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm not the only one who was 18, it was in the signature line too.
I was hoping you could sign less.
We have a letter in here from Charter Communications on upcoming programming changes. We'll continue to announce, it's on our website as well. The town of Ossipee is, police department is hiring. They're looking for either full or part-time officers. We have a water and sewer warrant to authorize the tax collector to collect $76,861.07. I make a motion, we sign it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a water and sewer warrant authorizing the tax collector to collect $160. I make a motion, we sign it.
Second.
And we have a water and sewer.
All in favor?
Oh, I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
We have a water and sewer warrant authorizing the tax collector to collect $1,830. I make a motion, we sign it. All in favor? Aye. All right. Old business, Boston Post game.
Unfortunately, our eligible candidate has refused to take possession of Boston Post, so we're looking for the next eligible
Okay.
applicant. Or recipient.
Okay.
refused it?
I contacted the family to see if we could do an award ceremony, and knowing that it was going to be busy times coming up with the holidays, he came in just between Christmas and New Year's and said that she wasn't interested.
That's funny, because the daughter asked me what the holdup was.
Yep. Okay. So we are looking for the second oldest resident in Ossipee. Anybody that knows who, or somebody that may be, we had a list of people that are close.
Who's the oldest?
Her name is, the lady that was going to get it?
Yeah,
The lady that
that was gonna get it
refused?
chose not done long.
Lawrence Cornell. He's got to be 98 years old.
Yeah, but he wasn't even close, believe it or not. This
Yeah.
lady was close.
There was two that were 104. There was two that were 104, and I think they were about a month apart from each other.
He's not even in the running yet.
Just a young fella.
Yeah.
I'll tell him that.
Yeah, he'll be happy, I would think. We'll continue to work on that then, I guess. Any other old business? New business, timber monitor,
He's moved his office hours as of the first of the year from Mondays to Thursday mornings.
okay? So if you have anybody that has any business with a timber monitor, his office hours are gonna be Thursday mornings, starting next week. Other new business? Public input, anybody else? Connie?
One of those ordinance changes is in conflict with your ordinance. Selectmen's ordinance for outside events. If you change your ordinance, then they would not have to come for a site plan.
Why does our ordinance impact whether or not they have to come for site plan?
Because one event per year, you are, according to your ordinance, able to pass. 2 or more, it goes to the planning board for a site plan. Period. So if you want to do away with the site plan and have it strictly on your plate, instead of sending it to us, once they submit a site plan to us, it is approved. And like Steve says, they shouldn't have to come back if they want to add another event. But according to the site plan regulations, they do.
Which to me is the place where, one, it's either that those rules should be changed, or that there ought to be a more liberal interpretation of what those rules mean. The reason that the selectmen don't, I personally don't want to change our ordinance, because even the very title of our ordinance is for a temporary event ordinance. It's not designed to govern businesses. It was never designed for that. It was designed for like Old Home Week and other organizations that wanted to hold events in town. It is appropriate for the businesses to go through site plan review. But what I don't think the planning board ought to require is that they continuously go back through site plan review because they want to do a slightly different event. To me, the things that the site plan review should be worried about is whether or not they have ample parking, et cetera, et cetera. And once they have been deemed to have that, I don't think they should have to go back every time they change the event.
The problem is, if you change the site plan, you would have to exempt them from the site plan, because once you sign a site plan and it's approved, you have to, by our statute, come back and change it if you're going to do something else. The same as a building. So, if we take that out, somebody can go and do anything they want on their site, because they don't have to adhere to their final plan.
No, I'm saying, using a couple of the businesses, and I don't need to.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that we would have to change that completely.
Why?
Because according to, and I believe it goes back to the RSAs of the state, that once you set it, it's final. And if you want to change anything, you have to come back to the planning board.
That's where you and I differ. I agree that they need to come back and amend their site plan. But I don't think they have to come back and amend their site plan every time they do something differently. That's where it becomes an interpretation. Once you take, let's use Sunnyville as an example, because I know he wouldn't mind. They've been doing those snow machine races out back for 15 years, not bothering a soul. If that type of event is allowed on his site plan, which I think he came through and went through the process and got it allowed.
That was very well.
Okay. If he wants to turn around in a month and do it with motorcycles instead of snow machines, I don't think he should have to come back to you. You see what I'm saying? It's a similar event, similar number of people. I don't want these businesses to have to jump through hoops every time they try to do something different. The delineation we made with the temporary event ordinance, we don't have an issue with businesses conducting events on their property. That isn't what propagated all of this. It was a business trying to do an event on somebody else's property that was the issue. When a business, I certainly hope all of us have some trust in our businesses that they're not going to be doing anything harmful. I mean, they're looking to increase their business and increase their exposure and presumably increase their bottom line. I just don't think that we need to make them go back and jump through hoops every time they want to do something slightly different. If their site plan review allows for periodic outdoor events, to me it should be something so simple as capping the number of people to make sure that you have somewhat near enough parking. And once you've done that, we shouldn't have to make them come back every time. It's crazy.
According to our attorney, and this is where it all came about, was the Hobbs case, and the attorney said, no, this is not allowed. No, that's not allowed. Yes, you're allowed to do that. And that's where this whole thing is going. So, you're saying if they're allowed something, if it's similar, that we should forget it.
Yes.
But that's not the way the site plan is written.
And that's where I think you need to change. You're suggesting that the selectmen should change our ordinance to comply with the zoning. And what I'm saying to you is they are two completely different things. The outdoor event, temporary outdoor event ordinance, is designed for stuff that's not addressed in the zoning ordinance.
Are you sure it says temporary in there?
I believe
I
so.
don't believe it does. It says outdoor ordinance.
I think it's temporary outdoor event, but either way, it's what it was designed for, the ones that are periodic and not on a regular basis. We believed in what was said then and what you have been practicing was if a business wanted to hold outdoor events, then they had to modify their site plan if it wasn't already permitted. What I'm saying to you, respectfully, is in my mind, the planning board ought to say to that business, okay, how many people are you going to have at these outdoor events? Your issue mainly is parking, correct?
No.
What's your main issue on whether or not to permit it?
There's no main issue, period. There is. Parking is one thing, crowd is another. Participation, according to our ordinance, not site plan, but regular town ordinance. That's why I'm saying it is temporary.
Temporary outdoor event ordinance.
It falls under regular, what you said to us is a site plan. It falls under the regular site plan process. There are certain things in our town ordinance does not allow outdoor venues, etc., to use.
It says clearly the ordinance is not construed to be construed as a substitute for compliance with other town regulations such as zoning and site plan review.
It says in there 2 or more events, right?
As a general rule, an applicant will be allowed one license per calendar year, and the event shall not exceed 3 days in duration. However, the selectmen may, for good cause and minimal or no disturbance to the event's neighborhood, grant additional licenses.
Because we went over this over and over and over again when you first presented it. And it was the planning board's, not recommendation or whatever you want to call it, consensus that we shouldn't be involved in it. And we voiced our opinion at that time, and you passed it.
Do you agree, Tony, that just what you said a couple of minutes ago, that there are certain things under the town's zoning ordinance that are permitted and not permitted?
Correct.
And you don't think the planning board should have any, you don't think the planning board should play any role whatsoever in whether or not they do a site plan review?
No, I don't, because the business already has gone through a site plan
Correct.
in order to have that business.
Correct.
Number two, we only control outside the building. That is all we have control with a site plan. That gentleman has it inside.
And when we're talking about outdoor events,
Correct. So, when we gave Sonny Miller, Jake's, Hobbs, they were all told, fire and police, parking, etc., was all outlined. And what they were asked, what is the list of events that you would like to have now or in the future? And they all filled it out, said this is what we wanted. We passed it on that criteria. So if they want to change that criteria, why shouldn't we as a planning board submit them to another site plan when you people could say, okay, yep, come to walk in, yep, okay, yeah, that sounds good, do it.
it just took you 20 minutes to, I think, say the same thing that I'm saying.
No, I'm saying, you people take it back home. You people say, they've already gone through a site plan
Yeah.
to open the business. So we know that they have sufficient parking, facilities, etc. Now, because of the ordinance, they came back, had us another site plan, an amended site plan.
If it is a business which
Hey.
wants to do outdoor events on their property on a regular basis.
Yeah,
They don't meet site.
we've had 3 so far.
Yeah.
They've already gone through the site plan. They've already told us what they want to do.
Yeah.
We agreed to that,
Yeah.
according to the site plan. Now, they want to do something different. You're saying, well, we should allow it.
Oh, yeah.
But, do you know if that is going to be the same? And I'll take the example of the snowmobile versus the motorcycle. How can you be sure it's going to be the same? I'm not, this is quick.
I think by common sense says they're similar. And I don't think in that scenario, and I only use that, and I'm not saying that, believe me, I'm not saying that that's what they plan on doing. I'm saying when somebody is looking to do something similar to what they've already been approved for, I don't think we should be making them jump through hoops and go back to another approval process. Period. I think that comes in, quite frankly, on our end. I hope it comes in on our end with our code officer. Because it would be, in that scenario, I would be exceedingly disappointed if he told them they have to go back through site plan review. Those are pretty much the only ones you're ever going to see, are the ones that we are enforcing and saying, you know, you're doing something that's way outside of what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, the thing is, another thing is, they can do that on their own. Like Sonny Miller, they can do motorcycle races on their own and not come back to us, and nobody's going to enforce it.
When this all came about 2 years ago, I suggested right then and there to classify it. 1, outside events, 2, having fireworks, or 3, having ammunition involved. Then you can do it all, until you get into something where you're gonna need, if you're gonna have ammunition or fireworks, you need the fire department, you need somebody there. That doesn't fall under the regular event. But just classify it as A, B, and C, and that would take care of it. But
It would, except that, listen, our zoning ordinance is already about 2 inches thicker than it should be, and it's only 2 inches thick. Well, I don't want to see us add and add and add and add to a regulation that, quite frankly, very few people even understand. Is there an issue currently happening where businesses want to do outdoor events and are being prohibited from doing so?
Yes, certain events, not, Steve was there, and I'll use Bob's again, because the attorney was there that night and said, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that.
On another property? I'm talking about the other site.
No, on Hobbs' property.
Okay.
Because the zoning says no.
Okay.
Nobody has ever asked us to change anything.
I'm not asking you to change it now.
Last March, I approached Economic Development, Ossipee Listens, and several others, even the ZBA. Said, what do you want to change in your ordinance? I've got zero feedback.
Okay.
So, whatever Laura came up with or Steve came up with to clarify some of those things that are 5, 6, and 7, I believe they are, because of Ossipee recovery and several other things. That's why the new ordinances were created, to be acted on by the town. But the problem is some of these things that they want to pass is in conflict with yours and in conflict with the present ordinances. So it's not just voting in that or voting it out, unless you vote out the other ordinances.
I respectfully disagree. I mean, what we've said and what our ordinance says, it's a temporary event ordinance. It's not, doesn't delineate between businesses and individuals. And it says in there that it's not to be construed as to give me the terminology again.
As a substitute for compliance with other town regulations.
So the fact that a business goes through the planning board for site plan review in order to be able to conduct business on their property is a completely different breed of cat than the temporary event ordinance that's used by individuals, businesses, or others. I think they're different things.
But the way that is written, that business may hold one event per year. A
Through,
business.
through permit with us, correct?
So there's no site plan.
Correct.
So you it doesn't balance out. Just because they want to hold one a year, you okay?
For-profit concern meaning a business desiring to offer a special event on site more than once in a calendar year shall do so only in accordance with a site plan approved by the planning board.
For
Correct.
more than once,
More than once.
correct.
But why shouldn't they be, if it's only one event, why shouldn't they have to go for a site plan? Now you're discriminating. Okay.
What we're trying to do, we had a conversation with this past before. Let's say you've got one of any Ossipee business, take your pick. And they say, you know something, we've got this idea to do X, Y, or Z on our property. We want them to be able to try it. We want them without having to spend hundreds of dollars in planning board fees to be able to come into us on a temporary, one-time deal, once a year, and be able to have a permit to do an event on their property. I think that is completely valid. To force them to go through site plan review to hold even one event, how much does it cost to get through a full site plan review?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So that's where I think the delineation is. We want folks to be able to try it. We don't have a problem with them doing it once a year. But for those businesses who want to do recurring, multiple events outside on their property, we still have no problem with it, but we think they need to go through the site plan review.
A site plan review is to ensure, one, that all the abutters know what's going on.
Right.
So if you give somebody a license to have one event, you don't notify those abutters, do you? So I don't understand why you have the authority to do it when this planning board doesn't. You're saying that we should be able to give any event that they want without notifying the abutters, like you do, for a one event.
You have lost me at this point. You had me for a while, but you have really lost me.
Number one, for the site plan, other than the property will have everything that was called for in the site plan, but it's also to notify the abutters. With your ordinance, one event, I don't have to notify my abutters. I can holler and scream and do whatever I want.
For once a year.
And yet my neighbors can't come in and complain. After the fact. After the fact. Not prior. Not prior. That's where
That is the true difference, to me, between a temporary, one-time deal and somebody doing them every weekend. I think if I were living next door to a commercial property, quite frankly, I don't think anybody has any real gripe if once a year they do an outside event for 3 days. If, however, they were going to do it over and over and over and over, then I think I ought to, as a neighbor, be able to have input.
The ordinance requires application be made 45 days before the event at a minimum, and it says within the general guidelines that the event shall be compatible with peace and enjoyment of properties in the vicinity of the area. Adequate provision shall be made to assure the security of adjacent and neighborhood properties from trespass, vandalism, excessive noise, light, substantial opposition posed by neighbors who own and/or occupy property in the vicinity, or legitimate complaints stemming from a similar event may be grounds for denial of the application. This is all part of the application process and the review, so they do have the ability to voice their opposition.
I understand. But I still, we were objecting to it when you first proposed it. I don't know, as a member, not as a chairman, but as a member, I don't think it's right.
And what I'm saying to you is, if the planning board chooses not to do its job and say, if the planning board says to these people that are coming in, you don't have to do a site plan review. That's your business. That's on you. It's our job to enforce the zoning ordinance. Correct?
Yes, you're correct. You're the last
So
one.
we've said to you that we believe that this is the appropriate course if a business wants to hold multiple outdoor events on their property. That the appropriate course is for them to do it under the planning board site plan review. I don't know where else it would be.
All right. Under your scenario, the only way that they could do that without a site plan would be an informal discussion. An informal discussion by law is non-binding on either part. So, to be legal, to do that event, if they want to do it, they have to go through site plan to get approval.
The recurring events.
You're talking about recurring.
Correct, once they get that. Now, if they want to change that, and it's the same as if you wanted to change your building on the outside, you'd still have to go through a site plan.
Well, that's what Rick said. If it's more than one event, if it's a recurring event, they have to go through site plan
But they
review.
have to
Oh, you're gonna read.
identify what events they're going to carry.
Where does it say that?
That's what the planning board said.
Is that what the ordinance says?
There's nothing to do with the ordinance.
Site plan review? Oh, site plan review says that they have to,
Review.
says they have to delineate each and every event. Where is that in site plan?
Site plan is in the site plan regulations.
It's in the regulations.
Yes, because once you prepare a site plan and put it down on paper, and the prime example would be next door. They come in for a site plan because they're a business. 6 months down the road, they say, well, we want to expand in the back. Their site plan was approved on that building as is where it is then. They come in for an addition. It goes through an amended site plan. No, I'm not. Because what they put down on the paper, Sam, when they have their amended site plan for the outdoor events, if they change it, then it's the same as the building.
I understand what you're saying, but listen.
I mean, that's,
Listen, we can overthink this, or you can end up with 2.5 inches of regulation that nobody understands. If, the idea to me behind the site plan review being involved in this, there are a myriad of outdoor events. Are we talking about an outdoor event that's gonna have 10 people there? Or are we talking about an outdoor event that's gonna have 1,000 people there? Obviously, the requirements, even for parking spaces, porta potties, et cetera, would be very different. We're not talking about a lot of businesses who want to do outdoor events. Literally, probably the 3 that have already got the site plan review. So once they've been approved, that they have a sufficient amount of property to hold this event, and they've got enough parking, they've got enough this, they've got enough that, you've already had them list out 8 or 10 different things that they might want to do.
Correct.
Unless it's something that deviates from that, I don't even know what the hell it would be, but deviates from that 180 degrees, why are we worried about it?
If you look at that last ordinance change, I think you'll find that that covers everything and there isn't a site plan on it. Other than the business. It's permitted by that ordinance. So they would only have to have their original site plan if they put up a building. But under the ordinance, they could have bowling, archery, whatever. There is no stipulation that they have to come back if they want to change something.
But you just said, the only planning board regulates what goes on outside the building.
Correct.
So what you're saying is then you're not gonna regulate what's outside the building either?
No. If they come in under that ordinance, their ordinance, if it passes, they have to have their original site plan.
Correct. And in that
And-
site plan covers not only the buildings, but the property, correct?
And it covers the outside of the building and the property. So, they go down the road, they've got an archery pit. I think the only thing that would be a rifle range. That wouldn't be allowed. But they wouldn't have to come back and get a site plan if they wanted to go to field hockey or whatever, football games or whatever, once the original site plan for the business was done. So that's what I'm saying is, other than that one, then you take back your ordinance, we wouldn't need it. Wouldn't need the site plan part of it.
In the simplest of terms, site plan review is the responsibility of the planning board.
Correct.
What we have taken domain over is that temporary event ordinance, which we created, completely separate of the zoning ordinance, to allow businesses and individuals once a year to do a temporary event, so that we can have some oversight as to how it's run, make sure that it's going to be safe. Past that, I don't think one has anything to do with the other.
Okay. I believe it does.
I respectfully disagree.
Next Tuesday night, you come to the public hearing, and you say that.
Okay. Okay. You have anything else? Ed, any updates?
Only that.
How's your life in Concord?
I don't want to talk about that. It's going to take a few hours. There is the last final review of the Governor Wentworth Regional School District budget tonight at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And at that same meeting, there will be a petition warrant article offered, which was the elected budget committee.
Good. Okay. Anything else? Hello? I make a motion we adjourn. All in favor? Aye.